just you and
All right, now we're going to talk about vendor lock-in. And I know this has come up a few times at this point, but there are a number of components of vendor lock-in that we haven't discussed yet. And it is an incredibly important risk when using cloud deployments. Our learning objectives for this lesson are really to talk about the common issues that result in vendor lock-in, talk about the primary methods for avoiding the factors that lead to vendor lock-in, and really how to prioritize and mitigate major risks for vendor lock-in. So as we said before, vendor lock-in is when you are unable to remove your data from a cloud provider. We call this the lack of data portability, or that this is often caused by data being stored in the cloud in proprietary formats that may be useful to the cloud provider in terms of storage or processing data, but they pose a huge risk to a business. Vendor lock-in can result in a business paying more than they should for cloud provider services over time because they are unable to move their data to a cheaper alternative. The best way to mitigate vendor lock-in is to really consider how data can be removed before signing a cloud contract, before putting data in the cloud. Now, I have done many vendor reviews in my time, and I know this is a very difficult thing in terms of human psychology. You've purchased a cloud vendor, you've signed a contract, you've fallen in love. You don't necessarily want to think about breaking up. You don't necessarily want to think about, oh, are we creating a dependency by using this cloud vendor? Do we really investigate whether we can easily remove our data? It's very hard for people, but it is an essential thing to be considered in the planning process when migrating to a cloud vendor. One of the other considerations are physical and technical limitations to moving from the cloud. The more data you put in the cloud, the harder it is to actually remove that data in terms of sending it over the internet. There are just throughput and bandwidth limitations that make it really difficult to move data. If you've used a cloud provider for many years for business continuity, you could have terabytes and terabytes, potentially even petabytes of data in the cloud. That could take months or years to potentially move over a standard internet connection. Even fiber optic connection might be difficult. Now, some cloud providers, they have solutions for this. And the solutions are usually aimed at moving data to the cloud in an effective manner, but they can be used in the reverse. AWS has a device they call the Snowball that can be taken to an on-premise data center, and you can load petabytes of data onto the Snowball, which then can be physically taken to an AWS data center and uploaded into the cloud. Quiz question. A medical imaging software company is dissatisfied with the service level at its current hosting provider. The company would like to move, but the volume of imaging data stored in their current provider would take months to move given the current provider's capabilities. This is an example of which lock-in risk. Is it 1, proprietary data format, 2, regulatory constraints, or 3, physical/technical limitations? In this case, it definitely is the physical/technical limitations. Now, the company could have potentially avoided this by analyzing how much data they've been starting to store in the cloud, as well as reading their cloud contracts very carefully and using effective risk management strategies when figuring out their cloud migration. All right, in this video, we talked about the main factors associated with the risk of vendor lock-in, namely proprietary data formats and technical limitations on technical and physical limitations on moving data in and out of the cloud. And we talked about the primary methods for addressing these factors. Really just reading the cloud services contract carefully, doing effective risk management and business continuity scenarios before migrating to the cloud, and identifying mitigation strategies for having this data in the cloud. Perhaps you'd use multiple clouds and not just one. But anyway, this can really save you a lot of time and headache in migrating to a cloud environment. I'll see you in the next lesson.